No, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, and we are live with Alex Piperno. Alex's first film, Window Boy, would also like to have a submarine. Was just selected to Pendance, and due to emails, stupid emails, we were not able to coordinate. But we are so happy now that we are able to join with Alex. Alex, welcome to Pendance. Uh,
Thank you. I'm also happy to be here finally.
yes, and congratulations on this film because it's so mesmerizing. I had to watch it 3 times,
Oh,
just to get my head
I
around
watched it more.
all of it. So,
I
of
watched it more times than three, I must say.
course,
Uh,
it,
Last year.
yeah, because of the edits and because of all of the attention that went into the details. And I must say, I do this because I want to make sure that I'm not asking you every question that you have already answered because you've had so many Q&As for this. I watched some of them when we were selecting the film because it's very interesting for us when we are selecting a film that we are also selecting a filmmaker. So to understand what is the filmmaker thinking, what are they doing, what were they trying to do. And I must say, your ambitions with this film are so interesting. Some of the questions you're exploring are so interesting. So I really want to talk to you about several things, really, for anyone who's watching now. I want to dig into the inception of how you came up with the script. I know you have covered it, but I would like to ask because some people have not seen all of your Q&As and are not fans yet. So
That's a good thing not to be a fan. Yeah.
yes,
Um,
so I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about this very interesting pacing that you have because it's very unconventional, of course, these days. So I went and counted your cuts, like how long your shots were, and did average shot lengths. You would make Stanley Kubrick jealous with some of the lengths. So this is very interesting, and of course, like I want to understand the what you were driving at as a story. So I guess my first question for you is for anyone who doesn't know, the film is a fantastical film. It is taking place on a cruise ship in which there's a portal to an apartment in Montevideo, and then there's a concept which is basically a shed that appears in the Philippines, which is considered mystical or potentially cursed by the locals, who then come and are trying to figure out where this thing came from and are sacrificing animals. So this is very interesting tying in all of these locations. I think this is a super cool way of telling a story, and also to, within the budget, to create a world so large, you know? So my first question is, how do you design the script? How do you come up with the story, tie these ideas together?
it's nice that this what you are saying about creating a world, because I am currently writing or trying to write or struggling with the script of my new film, which is still unknown, very unknown to me. And what I am discovering is that the thing that I need most is to understand the world, this new world I am again trying to figure out.
Hmm.
So that's the most important thing for me, I guess. Still in this new film also, but in Window Boy, I guess that I get very bored with conventional narrative, because what I think now, as the film has like been for a year from the screening, now I am thinking more about the second one, I guess, than the first one. But let's see what happens. But yes, what I need is to be surprised by the script, to feel as a spectator myself, and get involved in this mystery I cannot understand, which will be the film. So I constantly need to be surprised in every stage of the writing, but also in the shooting, and then in every stage.
Mhm.
So yes, so I guess that spaces being connected in a surprisingly way is something I need.
Hmm.
So what I yes, what I do is write down in a Word document a lot of ideas and images in a very long time process, and I have this more and more ideas, fragmented or proceedings or whatever, and then I start trying to figure out how they may be linked, and then I can discover new ways of being linked these different materials, and then is when I cannot stand for those ideas because they are not mine. I just discovered them, and I look forward so much that moment of discovering the ideas of the film and saying, okay, that's a film, that's a good film. I like to know more about this. I guess that's the feeling, the main feeling I need to have during the writing of the script. But it's also true that I never know which one would be the. I at least in Window Boy, I never knew which one would be the film because I have no clue about locations. I have no clue about the characters. I need in every stage to try to understand with these new materials of each stage how the film may be. No, so I never knew during the 5-7 years of writing the script which one was the film. That's something that I must say also.
This is interesting, this concept, because when I first heard an interview in which you explain how you link just in Word document, like you say, I was reminded actually, because I'm a filmmaker as well, and I come from a painting and art background, and one of the best things I ever did as a painter. Because sometimes, you're trying to copy something. Sometimes you're trying to prove something, like I can do this. But one time, my painting teacher said to me, "This is the concept. Take these two images. There's two paintings. One was the Red Room by Henri Matisse, and the other one I cannot remember which one it was. And pick 20 objects that you see in your surrounding, and incorporate all of them into the painting." And it turned into the most interesting painting that I had ever done in my life because of the way these things were linked. But the most beautiful thing was that I did not know what I had painted until after I had sold it, because I had sold the painting vertically. It was a vertical painting that was, like vertical. And I was invited to the house of the person who bought it to come over and celebrate the fact that I had sold a painting. I was very young, I was 18. And she had hung it horizontally. This I found to be really interesting because the painting looked better horizontally. And it didn't.
Finally, you made a good painting. Finally, that was the way.
It's interesting to know like how many ways that one can look at this. So, there's so many unique decisions in this film, like the choice to use non-actors in acting positions. This is challenging for a lot of people, especially for leads. That is very different to say, okay, well, to authenticate locations, we will use local actors, but they will only have 1 or 2 lines. So talk about the decision of not giving these actors a lot of dialogue, because it's very different. Like, this is a very personal film to you, I'm assuming, because you spent 7 years on it, of course. But there's so much you can do to manipulate a performance in the edit, to shapen it, to liven it up, to bring it to life. So talk about this process of how these two things are linked. Working with non-actors, 3 things really. Working with non-actors, the lacking of dialogue in the script, of course, and then the third thing, which is editing those performances to be maybe better than they were on set.
Sure. First, I was thinking about Francis Bacon, the painter, and because I love what he said about his own azar. You say azar, like the azar. Like he didn't know what he was painting. He was drunk and he made stuff, and then he said, "Oh, a head, a face. Okay." So he was looking for a face he discovered in his paint. And that way of not knowing your material, but also in the end knowing it, for me, it's the most important way of not controlling and so on.
Yeah.
So regarding the question, finally, I must say that I work with non-actors because when you study cinema, at least in Argentina, your friends are the crew. Your family is your crew. You are not so exposed to actors, so you don't know how to deal with actors. At least myself, but it's something that happened. But the crew is your family, so it's true that there's a distance between what you know, or at least what I knew about the actors, and the way I approach cinema as something very plastical and like, so I didn't know so much about actors. That should be said, and also I love so much Robert Bresson and all that idea of models, right? Like the opacity of the characters, the opacity of the actors or the non-actors, the models. That also it's part of this that we were saying before. Don't understanding at all the film, but anyway getting inside. And with actors, you have always to know. I guess maybe not now, but my idea was I don't want people to be like soldiers of the very aim of the film. I need pieces of reality, of truth, that I can believe in them, and that they move inside the frame as part of the location. I mean, that idea, right, of not working with characters, but working with pieces of reality. So for me, it was important to trust in the face and in the mise en scène, the body and face of the non-actors, and try to understand more about the film, like looking at them. So that's was, I guess, the impulse, and it was very clear that in Philippines they would not be actors, because I need that truth of the real farmers, right? Because they were all real farmers from the place, and I would never knew what to do with the actors. How would I say to do what if I have no clue? So I need that pieces of reality. So it was so fluent when I worked with them, because they were showing me what they would do. So we worked with their knowledge and their
So the Philippines footage feels very documentary, of course. It feels literally like you are doing exactly that. You are capturing people in their day-to-day life, but you have introduced one element, which is the shed. Really, it feels to me this way. And then, of course, we know as the audience what the shed represents in terms of connecting that location to the world underneath, which I think, it's very interesting. I read a lot of reviews for this film as well, because I'm very curious to see what do critics say about this, whatever. And one of the reviews that I particularly did not agree with was that the characters were not interesting. Like, they could have been more interesting, more charismatic, whatever. And this I disagree with, because I think, in their lack of overt emotion, which is the acting, like the, oh, what are you doing in my apartment? This type of overexposure, you actually get something very interesting out of non-actors. So I did not find the performances to be a problem at all. And in fact, I found that it's something about neuroscience and the brain and processing image and film. So basically, if you would listen to Stanley Kubrick say this, he would say, you can only focus on one thing at a time. Right? Any time that you put something else to focus on, you're distracting from the main thing. So what I appreciate about this film is that everything is extremely focused, very, very laser focused. And I very much appreciate this. And so sometimes I think actors can get in the way of this, but I'm wondering, so I read a lot of reviews, and actually I guarantee you, maybe you have not heard this before, maybe you have. Have you ever heard anyone compare your film to 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Sorry, but yes, because of the monolith, right? Yeah, it's just for the monolith. Just for the stuff. Actually, it was a reference. Actually, it was a reference that they discovered the shed in the middle of. Actually, it was not a mountain but a valley, but we couldn't find this valley in Philippines, so it was the top of a mountain. But in the script, it was in a valley, and the idea of the monolith was a reference. So yes, but regarding the documentary issues and so on, I don't know, because yes, of course, I need the documentary materials of themselves moving freely and so on. But they knew this, not the script, but the film, the idea of the film, and each scene has was written down. I mean, it exists before the shooting, and I talk a lot in the middle of the shooting. I tell them what to do with a translator. I was shouting all the time and saying, now you can do this or not. Say this. So I was like shaping the duration of the shot in the shooting. And then also, as you were asking before, in the editing, I always do, as there are still frames, I can work with each different part of the frame. For instance, if this was the frame of the film, I would use all these entrances, you know, in the mirror, the door that leads to my room, and then to the bathroom, and the possibilities of getting inside or outside the frame, you know, I work a lot with them. So when we decide a shot with a frame, it's very still, it's very clear, which we cannot move it. And then I can work with several takes and work with this part of the mirror in this moment, this part of the painting or this vertical in another take, and like in a puzzle, like great in the very old and beloved Final Cut 7, the choreography of the frame of the shot. With different takes and different with errors of the actors. That error will be the best part, so I keep this and then I mix it with another part of other actor. So I always finish discovering the frame, the shot in the editing, and maybe half of the shots were used in a completely different way that were shot. So
I can see
that. I mean, yeah. Why?
Yes. So actually, funny enough, because I watched your film. The last time I watched your film was yesterday. So I'm expecting something to happen in the mirror behind you the whole time that we're staring. I'm like, something is going to happen in the mirror.
And happened. Which shot? You remember?
Yeah, so there are some very interesting ways in which when you are looking at a mirror, you are not aware in your film that you are looking at a mirror, and then someone appears in the mirror. So you're like, that's a mirror. But then, of course, the mirror is not reality. So then the person walks past you, and then it's a very, it adds to this feeling that you are in something very weird and fantastical, this way that this moves, right? But also what I was noticing was how you stitch shots and how much, you know, because I edit as well. So I'm like, looking, and I'm like, so that shot is stitched with this shot. So sometimes a character will walk up the stairs and then come back down like this, right? And it's a very unnatural way, which is very interesting. Is like good unnatural. I'm not saying bad unnatural. I'm saying it's very good unnatural. The character will walk up the stairs, disappear, come back down, and you're holding, so there's an expectation. But then maybe sometimes the expectation of kind of the Kuleshov effect, you know, like you have a certain pattern that's emerging, and then you break the pattern. So sometimes
completely,
yeah.
So
very simple.
That's the way. Yeah, you should always feel like uncomfortable in a way, because not knowing exactly what's happening or the logic of the frame of the character, that's for me, it's very important. So you create an expectative, and then you can frustrate it and build a new one after that. So all that shaping of the materials for me is very, very important. And also, it's impossible to think about that in the script. That's true. It's something about the location and the framing of the location. and I discovered that there's something about the feeling of the character, the willing of the character, that you can discover it when you join all these different materials, right, in the frame. So in the script, you have the idea that something will happen, but then the location speaks better always, right, than the script.
So let's talk about the cinematography, because the cinematography is explicitly linked, obviously, to the editing, and you cannot edit something you did not shoot. So I asked.
Not so sure. Not so sure.
You can't.
Effects helps a lot.
Philosophical, interesting. Yes, it's interesting. Yes, you can technically edit in something that you did not shoot, but if you,
for instance, the whale, it was like VFX. We did. I mean,
yeah, like
for something.
Like your final shot, I'm assuming, was VFX, right? You did not actually. Was that practical?
Which one?
The final.
Last one, the very last one.
This.
No, yeah, that's VFX. That's VFX.
Of course. Okay. So yeah. So but one thing that I realized with green screen and a lot of these things is you have to be conscious that you're going to do this in advance. You cannot move the camera in a lot of cases. So I mean, for instance, some of your shots, you notice the camera is locked in one location. That's it. It does not move. Which, of course, I'm asking this because does that factor in when you are having the conversation with your DP? Do you say, listen, this is what I'm planning to do in the edit. I'm planning to use these mirrors and stitching these shots together. So please let us always shoot exactly this way so that I do not.
It was hard to make him understand that, because it's true that the shooting, it still don't think so much about the VFX. For me, it was very clear. When we have this frame, we lock it. You cannot move it. You cannot improve it. This one is the one. And that was very clear, because when we start shooting and trying things, I am already thinking on post-production. When I start shooting each shot, I am already thinking about the editing, which I will do by my own, of these layers all together. So I only can think each take from the post-production, thinking about the post-production stage.
I think it's very interesting because you know, there's. Are you familiar? I'm sure you're familiar with the film 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days. Yes. No. You must watch. You must watch this. It will blow your mind. I think you will love this. It will become one of your favorite films of all time.
Okay.
4 months.
Looking for favorites. So
yes, 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days. And what I appreciate about this film, it was
Romanian, right?
Huh?
Romanian?
Yes.
Romanian film? Yeah.
Maybe you have seen it.
Maybe.
Yeah. So what I find so interesting about that film is how frame within frame, change frame, characters move within the same frame to reposition themselves, and you have new composition. But because you don't cut very often, your shots are so long, and because your camera is locked, I think there's so much intentionality in how you frame your subject against the background in your shots, that even though some of your shots are 35, 40 seconds long, it takes a full 35 to 40 seconds to fully understand what you're doing in the shot before you're able to move on. So I actually really appreciate this. This is not really a question. This is more like a compliment, but I really appreciate, I really appreciate the intentionality at which you understand visual literacy, because this has always been for me a hallmark of like great directors. They really understand their frame, right? And how subjects are able to reframe within a frame, even though the camera is not moving. Maybe this is one example, for instance, when Window Boy comes into the apartment and confronts Ines, right? The character, right? And how he slowly moves into the frame. And he, like, they're separated by the dining chair, and there's like a movement in that frame, which is not moving, of course. And this is, to me, very interesting, how these subjects are able to
when she's in the kitchen, you say?
Yes, yes, yes. Because when she's walking around and she's saying like, "Hey, you are here. You know, I'm looking for you. Whatever." This is very interesting because the isolation and the loneliness, right? So it's like is always about what are you making the audience feel before you are making them feel something else. And to me, when she gets up to look for him, it's perfect to me to say this is the perfect time to show me that she is lonely. You know, this is the perfect time to show me that she is alone and seeking some sort of connection, which will then, of course, set up the next shot, which is what you do. So this is very interesting to me how you're able to frame within a frame this way. Even the way they are sitting when he is sitting down and she sings to him is very interesting to me. That there is the back available, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the balcony, which is the world outside, and their little quiet world inside. How the colors this is just it is so it's one of those films, you know, our programming philosophy at Pendance is we always pick films that you have to think about weeks and weeks and weeks ahead. It's like a gift that keeps on giving, right? Sometimes you watch a film, 2 minutes later you're done. It's like, okay, in, out, past time. But some films I think you watch and then you have to allow them to sit for many, many weeks. And then they
I am so happy to be here in Canada. You can't imagine to hear you what you're saying. No, I am so glad of hear what you're saying. Yeah, I completely agree. You know, of course, I need like always like very 3 layers, at least 2 or 3 layers inside the frame,
yeah.
so they can get in tension, right? But what you were saying about the framing and so on, for me the limit or for me the question always is that the idea cannot win, you know, the emotion. I mean, it's like you cannot show so much your cards, you know, like how it's this is still real in the film and how this is not how you say a trick for the public, you know, like showing your ideas or your tricks. For instance, Roy Anderson, which I think he's great, he's so great. Sometimes, in general, you always see his ideas. You know? So that make me feel very distant because I can feel the intellectualization of the framing. I can feel the decisions all the time. Great decisions in a way, you know, very smart, but also you feel that distance, that he's not, you are seeing him working and you are not watching a film. It's like the behind the scenes of the film all the time because you are always thinking with him how he can now, how what he can do with this is so smart. So for me it's good not to be so smart, you know, like okay, you have a lot of possibilities of potential in the frame, but you cannot you can never use all. You can, you know, be more light, more economical, more. For me, that's always a question. If this is too much, you know, that question, like not knowing so much the frame about the frame itself, about itself, right?
I think I know what you mean. Like, don't be too clever. Like, don't be winking at the audience. That's what you're saying. Yeah. Like, I get what, because,
How
you know,
this how say I forget the other Anderson, not Paul Thomas, not Roy, Budapest Hotel,
oh,
Anderson.
oh my God. Wow.
Oh, okay. You are always feeling it's like very you are always watching the smart guy.
Uh-huh.
For me, that's a problem.
Yep.
Wes Anderson, for instance, yeah, Wes Anderson. You're always watching him in control, and you're always watching the author behind the film. That, for me, is a very important question in each framing, right?
Yeah. No, of course. This is very interesting. So I think you are obviously aware that modern films have a cut pace of about 4 to 5 seconds per shot. Nolan, Spielberg, etc. Everybody is coming to this realization that audiences get bored when you hold something too long. and this is probably a symptom of not reading a lot. Maybe this is a symptom of being able to get everything quickly and fed to you, right? So how do you think I'm going to do something completely different? Because the reason that I'm comparing, not comparing, but saying that it reminded me of 2001: A Space Odyssey, I will tell you, because it's probably not the reason that you are thinking. The monolith is not the reason, even though that's the very obvious reason. The reason actually is the pacing and the sound, and the very cold characters, very emotionally removed characters. Because you see, in 2001, you are not distracted by the character's backstory, the character's wants, needs. It's very cold, but not to a fault. It's done very well, right? Compare, for instance, 2001: A Space Odyssey to Interstellar. Good example, right? Clearly inspired by, but how much of Interstellar is not focused? How many things are you doing? How many personal backstories are you trying to bake into this feeling that you are trying to take the audience on? Audience is only one person at a time, right? The person cannot focus on the feeling if you are always snap, 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 edit, 55 different characters, everyone has a backstory. So these very steely characters that you have, the slow, methodical pacing, frames within a frame. Obviously, your film is not dealing with space, not dealing with exactly the same topics and issues, but this is the reason why I felt the feeling, and the sound. Yeah, because your sound design on this is very interesting to me. It's very overwhelming atmosphere. It's almost like you're listening, those tapes that say go to the rainforest, like this, a little bit like that. You're really in the locations when you're there. I knew I was in good hands when Window Boy goes into the cabin and he goes to sleep. And there's that voice or the radio announce, not the PA announce system that says, like what to do. I can close my eyes and say, literally, I feel like I'm on a cruise ship now, and even the whale, the shot of the whale, this desire to put it in the reflection and to hear the bounce of the sound. I was like, this is very smart, because it's so easy to mess that up and show the whale. Like,
no, but yeah, for me,
it was
I hear myself like the echo. Maybe you can maybe someone has to rehabilitate it. For instance, the frame of the whale, it was not in the script. We couldn't shoot in a real cruise ship because it was so complicated in terms of authorizations and so on. So I couldn't shoot the passengers and the place itself, which was so important. So I had to take my old material from the scouting I made in 2012 with a 5D camera, and try to figure out how to match that old material from the scouting with the material of the film. And I have these documentary shots of people, and so the shot of the whale was a mix of different shots. For instance, Window Boy watching, looking through the window, was shot in a hotel in Uruguay, because it was going to be part of a kitchen scene in the cruise ship that it doesn't appear in the cut. So it was a hotel in Uruguay. I took that shot, and then I put, like, with a low opacity, right? A shot from the documentary, from the
location
2012 scouting of the outside of the cruise ship, and I did the opacity low and cut it, and it's like the reflection of the window, but it's a different shot. And then I create all these captain talking and applauses and so on, and the idea of the scene of the whale, because I needed to match all the different shots of the scouting of people watching. So I said, okay, if a voiceover of a captain talking them to watch through the window happens, that will be the same scene, and window boy will be part of that scene watching him behind the crew area window. So then I wrote down this captain and all the scene that was like a very old fake. And then I show the cut to a friend, and he said, "Oh, now I miss the whale." Ah, you're right. So then I download a stock of a whale and put it there. You know, so it's like stage by stage, little by little, try to figure out which one would be the scene and what would add some layer and that get in connection better with the rest of the material. So that whale that didn't exist until the very end, and it was nice.
It is. And what I find so interesting about your work is the limitations that you worked with, right? Because budget, limitations, whatever. But if you watch old films from directors who aspire to much bigger budgets, sometimes you find that it actually hurts to have more money. Sometimes. Like, for instance, Nolan's The Following, right? Memento. Progressively, his films get more complicated. As more money comes in, I think sometimes the films become more scattered. So, for instance, for me, if you have a choice to do the whale shot again, and let's say you are flush with $1,000,000, and someone says, "Okay, Alex, go shoot a whale, like an actual whale, and you can show it." I think you lose something in that.
But I would never, I could never write that scene. It was not. I could never write it down. I mean, it was part of a solution of the editing. I mean, I love that. Like find solutions with, but I would never be able to write that scene. Why I would think about a whale? Never would happen to me. You know, so that scene would not be in that very rich film you are saying, because I would never thought about that. So
Well,
that's a good stuff for me.
You wouldn't think about that, but like someone might, or maybe you might later on. Who knows, right? But that's very interesting. No, and I mean, there's this old adage they teach you in film school, which is that there are three films: the one you write, the one you shoot, and the one you edit. And it seems to me that the one you edited is like the one that you put so much energy into. So I'm kind of curious now for your next film, which you are screenwriting right now, yeah? Maybe I need to ask you a first question. Were you going for this feeling of loneliness, isolation in this? What was the feeling that you were trying to, and the ideas you were trying to explore in this film? Because it's very easy for somebody to take something very different away from this film and still love it. Like you can have, I think after the screening, there were 3 people who messaged saying, "I love this film so much, blah, blah, blah. This is why I love it." Very different interpretations. All 3 people had very different. One person was like, "It's about loneliness." One person says, "It's about your dreams and being able to connect to the whole world." And some people were just like, so it's very possible to misread this film and still like it because there's so much. So what was your interpretation of the film?
No, interpretations is something that I cannot, my religion doesn't allow to talk about interpretation. But, so no interpretations. But what I can say is that I think also bringing this conversation about the character, the non-actors and so on, that what they do is that they look, right? Each character are like kind of peripheral, and they look. They don't do so much, but look from outside, right? And that's nice because the cinema is about looking, right? The cinema is about organizing what you see, right? And I think that they, in a way, do that. So we can do it with them, and that's nice for me. And that's also a manifestation of loneliness. Yes, of course. But I think that the loneliness or the peripheral view, let's say, is what allows you to organize what you see. If you are in the center, you cannot have a picture from outside. So I must say I like having the picture from outside. Um, it's I am from Uruguay. I live in Argentina, or at least I used to live in Argentina until September. Now I am in Uruguay again. But something of being Uruguayan in Argentina and Argentinian in Uruguay, something about not belonging, not reproducing completely the code of a place. I
Hmm.
like that. I like that, and I feel it gets thinking more interesting because they are always in a way new. They're always in a way incomplete, and for me, the cinema has a lot to do with that. So I don't mind making a film of multiculturalism or globalization. I give a shit. I don't work with the topics. I don't want to say something about globalism. I don't mind. But I do mind exploring, let's say, the strange, the impossible connections are very possible also at the same time. Connections of people who don't belong to a place and to another one, but at the same time they appear in this new place, or they approach another person, not knowing so much and not understanding so much. There's something about absurd, something about fantastical. I do like. I prefer to work with those materials. So I would say that I don't talk about, but I work with. Right? There are materials that you work with. I don't know what I am saying in the film. I'm not saying. I mean, you make a system, right? You put something materials to work together, and then you see. And if everything goes well, you enjoy and you try to know more about that mystery, and that's quite enough for me.
You know, that's interesting. Uh, I think sometimes when I talk to really great directors or really interesting directors who are doing good work, I'm curious to see what questions they're asking, not what they're trying to say, what they're trying to discover. I think it's a very important distinction because, you know, you as a festival director, whenever I get an email or we get an email saying from this director, I wanted to say this and this and this about this subject. I'm like, I know you made a bad film. Now let me go watch it. It's because the questioning part is what makes artists interesting, you know, for me at least. But one of the interesting things about your film is the timing that it's released, because so you may not want to give an interpretation of your film. It might be against your religion, but it's not against my religion to give you a little bit of interpretation. So, interconnected disconnectedness. This is a term I literally invented just because I watched your film. Okay, so this idea of being close and being far, not belonging, right? This is a feeling I think maybe a lot of us can experience, can say we have experienced the past year, right? Connecting to people that we do not connect with very easily, like you and I are having conversation almost in real time. It's not quite the same. We are separated by a screen, but we are, you know, on different time zones. You're in Uruguay, I'm here in Canada. So we are connected in a way, like on the submarine. Yeah, sorry, on the ship through a portal. We don't speak the same language as first language like this. So a lot of people have walked into each other this way. And the other thing I will say is films like this accidentally are very interesting for the festival circuit right now because someone brought this up. We had three films. We had a few films actually, but two films in particular, three films in particular. This film, Toprak, which is Turkish film about rural village, and then third one was the Cafe of My Memories, which is like very very beautiful wide shots of Paris and Cherbourg and whatever. And everyone was like, these films are so beautiful right now because I've been staring in my apartment whole year. And now I get to see Philippines, fields, I get to see, you know, Cherbourg. So talk about the timing of the film, because you could not have released this film at a better time or a worse time, depending on how you look at it.
There's nothing that I can do with that. So I mean, about how of the meaning of the film, talking with the COVID and all that. I would prefer to premiere the film in the old way, in the old world,
Mm.
and could travel with the film and meet you personally. Honestly, I prefer not to be so connected with
Intimate.
the situation, but to travel and drink beer with people I don't know. Finally, I wanted to drink beer with people I don't know. So, so what can I say? I mean, it's nice, it's funny that it can add new layers to the film situation, but there's nothing that I can do with that. So that's okay. Um, I don't know. I don't feel like happy because this may add new layers. I feel so exceeded by the situation that
Mm.
I don't mind.
Film is an audience, right? Like you need an audience for the film. Sometimes films come out too early, right? Maybe a film comes out 2 years before World War II, right? And suddenly, after World War II, people are feeling a certain way, and suddenly the film is speaking to the way people are feeling, right? So I'm saying that I think this film speaks to a lot of the emotions that people are feeling right now, which may contribute to how the film is being read. Like, for instance, you watch a film after a breakup or a heartbreak, it's different film. Everyone who talks about being
Yes, I agree. No, I completely agree. I completely agree.
right. So there's this feeling of being disconnected and lonely, isolated, feeling like maybe some of us wish that we can just go into our washroom and walk into the wall and appear.
Don't do it. Don't do
Don't.
it. Please don't do it. No, but you know what? Talking about that, what I like is that in the moment when Nolly and Window Boy meet in
Hmm.
the end of the film, I am spoiling, I guess. Um, in the script, it was a different scene. Window Boy help Nolly. They were kinder with each other, and in the scene it didn't work because it was stupid. It didn't make sense. It was a badly shot. That part didn't work. And so in trying to figure out which one would be the scene, like editing the scene, I was very surprised because the Window Boy, he gave a shit. He didn't want to get in contact with Dolly. He just wanted to know where was the door, right?
Hmm.
He was not kind with him, and I like that. And I say this is interesting because why would he be? Why he? We were expecting him to be kind with somebody he doesn't know. So I was surprised, and I was kindly surprised by that reaction of Window Boy in the editing room, and because then I understood. Yes, I mean it's not a matter of connecting. They are not connecting. It's impossible to them to be connected with each other because they share anything.
They're connected by space. That's all. That's it.
Yeah, so why they should be like so happily? No, it's not that. It's not like that.
No, no,
And I like that.
I agree with you. I think that this was perfect, actually, because they don't speak the same language. They don't know each other. It would read very stupid if suddenly he's like, "Oh, let me show you, let me help you." This would be very dumb. So I'm very glad you did it the way you did.
There's a fantasy of globalism that try to avoid the distance among people, right? Like I no, I think that it's the other way around. It's good to feel to feel the pain of the distance, to feel the opacity of each other. For me, that's nice. That's very nice, and I am glad that the film could end in that way because I feel that's nice. That's important.
So
More than talking about the globalism, more than talking about that every party is connected with each other. For me, the more important thing in any case would be, but that's not enough. Being connected is not enough.
hmm. So, without ruining the film, I do want to say for anyone who has not watched the film, I'm not going to ruin it, but I'm going to ask a question. That final shot, the final shot, right? It can be interpreted a lot of ways. Um, I think I was feeling many things when I saw them. Um, when I saw the sequence, let's call it the final sequence of
Yeah,
events, final event that happens.
I've been spoiling for the last 5 minutes anyway. I did.
Yeah, hopefully people will people will not catch everything you're saying,
Okay.
but because in order to know who the two characters that you're speaking about, they would have to watch the film anyway. So you're not technically spoiling. But my question is, this idea of destroying this thing, this concept of destroying something that you don't understand, merging with freedom into the open ocean, right? What is the thematic um, question that you are aiming at here? Because I have many ideas about what you were going for. I think by being so open and vague, you are allowing everyone to have their own idea. There's no spoon-fed answer. There's no this is what I mean. You're giving people like, okay, this is freedom, or this is destruction, or this is pain. So I'm kind of curious what you were exploring with that final decision in the edits.
But now I would like to hear your impressions about that, your interpretations.
So my interpretation of the act, let's call it the act that sets everything into motion, because my first impression was I had seen the trailer, so I knew what was I knew what that one thing would lead to, and I was like, oh boy. So it was an emotion. My first emotion was, why do this? And how much this ties to how we destroy everything we don't understand in the world. We seek to destroy an opinion because we don't understand it. We seek to destroy people we don't understand. So this idea of something being out of place, and the only cognitive response to this is to destroy it, to me seems very symptomatic of stupidity and basic human evolution. This is how humanity has always worked, right? Native, you can draw any parallel you want. Colonizers come to North America, South America. They don't like who's there, so they destroy everyone who's there. It's like very common, basic human brain working. The second thing that I felt was fear for our character because things are happening. Then I felt peace, ultimately peace, that he's free from this. And maybe it's my own romantic feeling about the ocean and being like a fish free, like maybe this is it. But I felt the catharsis that the ending leaves me on an optimistic note of the unknown, and maybe it's freedom from something. Because if you look at this, if you reinterpret your cruise ship as purgatory or something of that nature, this idea of something that you are trapped on and moving towards but unable to escape, it's obvious to me from his attitude towards his job and his constant desire to escape into portals that he is not happy on this ship. So the last scene to me is vindication for Window Boy. So it was panic. It was judgment, resentment, panic, and then catharsis. This was
I agree that I agree that you don't feel bad for what happened, right? It's not like the end of the world. You don't feel bad for that. The character is never in risk, in real risk. It's like almost like a cartoon decision, right? It's like he goes away, he leaves, he continues looking for new doors. Who knows? He probably, with a submarine, he could be looking for new doors, but that's the gesture, the movement that he makes. He's never he doesn't die. For instance, you don't feel like this is the very end of the world or whatever. So it's something like a cartoon ending. I like that because it's like not a matter of realism. Always the problem for me is the realism, right? It's the stylization of the situation, so he doesn't care. So for me, I agree, which is something about he will continue looking for doors. His liberty is maybe a very strong word for me, but yeah, he's still in movement. He's again in movement.
Mm.
Like if his work would be, I mean, what he knows to do is to be in movement, to escape and go to new places. He's still doing his job in that sense. I like that. And then regarding the what happens in Philippines, for me, I don't think about that action in moral terms, right? For me, is how can I connect all this? So, okay, if this happens, this also can happen. So this may get together. So I think in that terms, right? In plastical terms, in cause consequence, right? But in a not moral, in a plastical, in a stilizated way.
Mm.
So I am not judging humanity for doing that. That's okay. That's a material, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that. Also, yes, I feel I don't know. It may be it's like it's literature. It's not real people, you know. It's their characters. So that's okay. They can do that, and because they are part of this bigger movement. So I think in that way, you know, the materials.
Mm. I mean, it's always interesting to leave a film open to interpretation because you always have, people, they're projecting their own feelings. If someone is a globalist or anti-globalism, or they have moral ideas about something, they bring that into the film always, right?
That's okay, but you know, you cannot answer anyway the question of. I mean, it's not a matter of feeling with sense. It's a matter of feeling the. I mean, it's not to feeling with sense, but to feel the movement, like a ballet. I don't know, like a plastical movement. You know, for me, it's much more about that of being emotion. I mean, feeling the emotion of the plastical organization of the materials, right? That's not completely abstract. Of course, you can feel it with sense. That's okay, but sense is also part of the material. So why?
I see it like an audiovisual journey within self, right? As opposed to trying to say, this means this, this means this meant this. It's more like, this is 82 minutes to absorb some feeling audio, like you're hearing things, you're seeing things, you're putting things together, but more or less it's like personal. It's very personal for me to watch a film like this, to just see what did this bring up inside of me, as opposed to this was the plot point here, there. I think these films are very interesting in their ability to do that, because they're not distracting. They're not forcing you to think about five things. They're actually it's actually, but it's so interesting to me how certain subjects connect, right? And one of the subjects that connects here is subconscious mind, right? Like how mind wires subconsciously through hypnosis, right? And a lot of people say that media consumption is hypnotizing for the mind. Sometimes things can go into your brain because you're so entranced, right? So I find that this film has a very unique hypnotic quality to it as well. And I don't know if that's deliberate, but it's the sound, it's the shot lengths, it's a lot of things. But there's so much that you could put into my mind through this film. Have you worked with the government? You should work on campaign ads.
When you start recording, I will tell you some things. No, actually, in Biarritz, when we screened the film, one of the public asked me if I worked with hypnosis, because he feels the same as you, that there's something about the hypnosis. But for me, it's about the pace and how you put each information, right? Like in the image and in the sound, how you work with this rhythm, right? It's a lot of of that. Also, Robert Bresson again, when the eye work, the ear rest, right?
Yeah.
You work with the ear or with the eye, and you like yes, it's like an equalization of the information you work with in the frame in each moment. I believe a lot in that. I mean, that's nice for me to work with, and I appreciate a lot that you say that, because yeah, I agree. I like. I mean, each sound is put in each place. No hidden aims, right? Just for the pleasure of put them together. But yeah, that's what can I say.
Yeah, so I'm now curious about your next film because I'm assuming you learned so much in this film, 78 years of your life. You're talking about 2012, that's 9 years, you know? So 1 year since your release, and touring all over the world with this, 7 years in script shooting, location scouting. So with your next project, I'm kind of curious how much of it you know about already, and if you have decided anything about whether you're working with professional actors this time, you're going to work same thing, different genre. To me, it would not surprise me if you told me that you were doing completely something different.
Completely something different, but not. And now completely something different. No, not so much, but also yes. I mean, uh, I don't know want to talk about so much about the film because I don't know. But I been working. I broke up with my ex-girlfriend 2 years ago, and I wrote down all my WhatsApp conversations. So I edited them. So I made a lot of scenes with those conversations because both of us like talking a lot. So I've been working with that material, like editing the text.
Mm.
So there's something about, because I want to work with more dialogues now, because I never worked with a lot of dialogues, and I want to try that. I don't know how to shoot that, but I will try. So I am working with that material on one hand, but on the other hand, there's a spaceship called Astarza, which probably will be the name of the film, Astarza, hopefully. And everything, I don't know so much, but yeah, I mean, again, it's a fantastical film. Again, has to do with strange or impossible relations about locations and spaceships and ex-girlfriends. I don't know. Let's say this for now, but I am in the middle of a struggle, a battle
This
with the material.
um this long time ago, I broke up with somebody, and we decided to do something very artistic because she was artist and I was an artist. So we said we will break up over 24 hours. Like we had already broken up. Let's say we will have one last day together and we will record everything that we say. And then we will have 24 hours of recording and we will forget that we are recording. So we will just be honest and say whatever. So have all the breakup, all the fight, all this. It was very interesting, became the subject of a script of mine that I have not yet. Yeah.
But then there's something about performing in that one day.
We got high, so that's why. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, but for me, like this the documental material works, right? Because I have no imagination. I need to work with real materials.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a good idea to work with that, because it's, of course, it has a lot to do with me. Those dialogues, it was like me, 100%.
I've heard you say you don't have an imagination now in 3 interviews. Can I please challenge that? I think you do.
But I mean, of course, I can have imagination, but I can I need something in front of me, so I can start speculating about that and putting in relationship with other materials. But out of the blue, like the blank, this out of the blue, I cannot. You know, I need. I am good at relating things, but I need them before.
That's basically intelligence, you know? Like that's basically that's intelligence, what you're talking about.
Well,
I
Happy to hear that. Happy to hear that. But I would love to be different and to can create out of nothing new stuff. I cannot do that.
I don't think I don't
But
think anyone creates out of nothing. Like
I know people. I know people.
nothing, they're creating completely out of nothing. Like
Psychotic. I love psychotics
yeah,
in terms of creation. Psychotic, how you say? Like anyway.
yeah. No,
Anyway.
I think it's just everything is coming from something, even if it's not accessible where it's coming from. Sometimes it's a feeling that's buried deep down. Sometimes it's memory, you know. But when you get to the etymology, like you really dig deep to every script, it starts with some memory, some idea, some dream, something. It's there, and dream
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. But I strongly need to work with
physical something.
previous materials.
Okay,
Um,
so like
because if not, I feel that I am very superficial. You know, I need to steal the truth to another one to work with the truth of another one. I feel that I am quite superficial, if not. I mean, you know, like, or at least hard to me to show my own feelings in that way. I feel better stealing the truth of somebody else and me and I and that's how I get connected with Window Boy and those characters. They are the one who watch. I am the one who watch. Hopefully less and less, right? But I am still the one who watches.
but this is so interesting to me because when we are selecting filmmakers to Pendance, we are always envisioning what they will do later. It's a little bit like scouting, a little bit, but it's so fantastic how often we end up being right. Like we select maybe filmmaker in 2016, 2017, and we're like, this filmmaker has very interesting idea, very good cinematic language, very good this, very good that, but maybe just one thing they need to happen in their life, just in their mind, that will untap this full thing to become something else. And with you, you know, I have always believed that for a filmmaker, digging inside, deep within yourself, resolving your own stuff, getting comfortable with your truth. This is untaps new resource for a filmmaker, new potential. So the fact that you are saying that you are superficial, but you are able to make a film like this, even before that, to me is like, wow, what is he gonna do in 5 years, 10 years? No pressure, by the way. But I mean, this idea to me is very interesting because it's very difficult to make a good film without that quality. And the fact that you're just technically so brilliant that you're able to do that is like, wow, I really think maybe one day maybe one day I will look back on this conversation and say I had a conversation with the best filmmaker in the world. But
Well, stop with all that, please. Thank you a lot for your comment, of course. But I don't know. Right now, really, to be honest, I am having quite a bad time because now I am with coronavirus right now, last day. But I'm trying to figure out which one is my new film. I have no clue. I don't know what to do. I am really stuck, which is okay, right? Because it's okay to
yeah.
feel that way for me.
Mhm.
It's part of the job, I guess. But I really lost. So I think that's okay because if you're not lost, it doesn't deserve to be done, right? The journey. But I am feeling quite lost.
I think being lost is a beautiful thing. Absolutely beautiful
But
thing.
not in quarantine because you're lost in your own house. But yeah, I agree. I mean that's yeah. I am in the
Have
middle
you
of that.
have you ever considered producing somebody else's script, like shopping script, or you have to write your own work?
Working with a script of another one.
Hmm.
I don't know. No, I don't know.
Like maybe.
At the end of the day, I would rewrite it. Of course, it would be mine.
Hmm.
But that's maybe for the next one.
Yeah, I mean, even adapting from a novel or a short story, it sometimes is helpful. I think because it's completely your own, right? I've for instance, I don't know if you watched Jonathan Glazer's The Fall, right? Short film, 7 minutes, very good. One of the best short films I saw all year. And you know, it's inspired by several things in real life. It's inspired by a Goya painting. It's you know, it's inspired by short story. It's inspired by a picture of Donald Trump's son. So it's a lot of inspirations that are coming into this, but it's authentically completely his own. But having,
Yes, of course.
yeah,
I
yeah,
agree. I completely agree with that. I am quite stubborn, so this one I need to figure out which one is. But I was thinking, maybe it makes sense to work with, or maybe to I am starting working with friends, talking about the film with friends. So and maybe a writer, a friend of mine, which is writer, he would write the not the film but the novel, but his own novel about the same film, which is not a film because it doesn't exist yet. But
uh-huh.
his idea of what we are talking, maybe he will write the novel by his own, and I will write my film, and they will be connected, and we will be talking. So it's nice, yeah, to open the conversations to other ones. That's for sure. But who knows? We are in the middle of the journey.
That's very interesting. I have one final question for you, which is your title. Um, Very unique title. So, and there's no submarine. Spoiler alert: there is no submarine in the film. So I understand your title, of course. I'm not stupid, but I'm curious how this came to be this title, because it's translated from Spanish, yes.
Yes.
So it doesn't quite exactly make sense in English, but it does make sense in English. So I'm just kind of curious, like, where did the title come from?
It makes sense in English, only that window boy in Spanish is Chico Ventana, and you will never say Chico Ventana. It sounds like a bad neutral translation from English to Spanish.
Okay.
You know, it sounds there's something like broken in that translation, and I like that broken thing, right, of the sense of the bad translation, you know. And I think that there's something about that which is still in the title itself, right? Also, this like meaning, strange meaning of the title.
Hmm.
And I like that the title may be a door that opens to that game, which is the film. The idea of which voice, who's the one in the title talking about Window Boy, naming Window Boy, making a comment about him. Who's that voice? Which is that voice? I like that a lot. And I like that it's like a speculation of the title about the desire of Window Boy. For me, that's interesting. Of course, there's not submarine, but maybe in Window Boy's heart, there's a submarine, or maybe with a submarine, he would have easily continue looking for new doors or windows or underwater, let's say. So there's something, yeah, of course, poetical on that, but it's also a key to enter the film for me also.
Hmm.
Uh, so so yes, it was part of a bad poem that I have written years ago. So I was re-editing the verse, and it appears Window Boy and appears a submarine, which was new, and it little by little start appearing something about open sense, right? And this open sense idea, I think it's the key of yeah, of all the film also. So I like the title, of course. I am tired of being the guy with long titles, so next one would be very short. Because if not, if you create an expectation and you follow it, it's not fun anymore. So it's nice to, yeah, to frustrate the frustration of that expectation. So
I think the commercial success of any film, it comes down to two factors, actually. I read about this a lot, and actually I wrote about this because we were talking about Shawshank Redemption, 1991 Shawshank Redemption, if I'm not mistaken, that was the year. And people loved the film, but they could not remember the name of the film. Shik. They couldn't remember, and they would and it would be very difficult for them. So they couldn't tell their friends, "Oh, you have to go watch this film," because they couldn't remember how to say. So I think the longer the title, the more likely someone is to not be able to remember. So I think, ironically, most people call your film Window Boy. They
Me
don't.
too. I do the same.
They just shorten it for you. So, I mean, this is like Doctor Strangelove, right? Not to continuously beat you over the head with Kubrick
No,
reference.
but I also call it Window Boy, but it's nice that it has also a surname, the title, right? So that's okay. Or also it's the long title film. That's okay also. But
But Window Boy is a perfect title because is even in English.
no, it's boring. It doesn't make sense. Window Boy would like to name something, and the title doesn't want to name something.
I'm speaking specifically from marketing perspective, not artistic perspective. Because
I understand.
yeah,
Of course,
because
it was a possibility. Of course.
the two words window and boy are very rarely ever put together, but they flow very well together. Window boy. It is a certain flow to the word, so it's very memorable because it's unique. It's not paper boy, which is very common. It's not bus boy, like bus boy. This is very common. Window boy is very unique, and it flows together, and it's short enough to be memorable. So if you had a marketing executive on your team who was determining this is how it's going to be, I guarantee you they would have said Window Boy was perfect title. And it makes sense too, a little bit, but you may disagree. You say it does not make sense for you because you need more.
One producer suggests to the title to be Window Boy, just Window Boy.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't agree, but it's nice that we have that conversation. In any case, you can call it Window Boy, and that's okay. But
Well,
it would not be so interesting for me.
your title is perfect for the film you made. It sets the expectation very properly for the film, right? Because when you have a title like this, I go into it expecting a certain type of film, and that's sort of why it works. If you just call it Window Boy, I might expect something a little bit different, which would screw up everything. Do you know what I mean? Because everything. It's like when somebody walks into a film. It's like we were talking about this a lot during Pendance, which is like the concept of objective reality versus subjective reality, and people who have the nerve to say this film is this or this film is not this, and it's like this is all opinion, right? Everything is just opinion, and his opinion is highly unreliable because everyone has one, but also because you're bringing so much into it, right? If I tell you that a certain film is in a certain language, you come in with expectation because you have idea of how many other Japanese films or Korean films you watch, and maybe you expect this to be like that. So then it not being like that makes it more original, even though technically it does not. You know what I mean? So just the concept of the title, right, is in itself setting an expectation that you are about to enter something sort of unique and strange and fantastic.
But yeah, but I agree. I think it should be like that, not only in a marketing approach, but also in a sense. I mean, aesthetic approach. So yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. And it, I like that the title is not just something ornamental. There's
Yeah.
has to be already working with the rest of the materials for me. If not, it's boring. If not, I mean, I would open a shop, a barbery if I wanted to work. I want to make my film. I want to feel comfortable, with this small universe I can create. So it's nice to be like, I guess, unique. It's quite a lot. So I feel fine with that.
I think you've achieved that here. It's a very unique film. It was definitely one of the more unique films we've ever selected at Pendance. We're so happy that we had it. We're so happy that filmmakers really connected to it. As for those of you who do not know, Alex is leading a little workshop for some of our selected filmmakers this Saturday, and this is very exciting for us because ultimately we appreciate any filmmaker who can put so much of themselves into a project, like a stamp of themselves, from the edit to the script to this, and come up with something that feels truly personal, unique, interesting, technically very proficient. There's so much good about this film, and really I'm very humbled that we were able to select it. So thank you so much.
Thank you a lot. Really, I am really happy to have this conversation with you. I really appreciate a lot your words. Thank you a lot.
Yes, and thank you for coming on, and I wish you very speedy recovery
Thank you.
with what you're going through. Yeah, and I hope that your symptoms are very mild and that everything is good. This is a really unfortunate thing because we had 4 filmmakers who have this problem.
Really?
Yeah, during Pendance, we had 3
Ah,
that during, 1 that had it before. Now you. So this is really it's very real and happening all over the world. Everywhere.
for
So
me, it has been very mild. I should say it was like I
yeah, you seem
feel
fine.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Um,
okay.
yeah. So hopefully vaccines come soon. I don't know. Yeah, we are in lockdown here as well. They have issued 3rd state of emergency. Stay at home. Don't go anywhere. Me personally, I feel weird saying I enjoy this. Uh, because I am so, there was an actor who was on British television the other day. He said, "I've been in isolation for 20 years. I don't like people." It's not that I don't like people. It's just I really enjoy solitude. I really and
You don't have to explain. That's okay.
yeah, I assume you're the same way. So yeah, so this has just been a really interesting time to work on scripts and to get to know myself a little bit better, get to know my partner a little bit better. It's a very interesting time. So I'm making best of it. I wish you good luck on your script. I can't wait to see what you do next. It's very interesting. Yeah, yeah, and
Thank you.
yeah, no, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on and thanks for doing this. Okay, all right.
Okay, see you.
And yeah, see you soon.
Good
In
evening
person.
there.
Beers in person in
Yes,
Toronto in winter.
will
Bye.
happen.
Will
Will
happen.
happen.
Bye.